Yo, what's going on, guys? Mush back at it with another video. I feel like some of you guys probably saw this tweet, this essay from Randy Pitchford about his projections of the Epic Game Store, talking about that tweet from 5 years ago and his outlook on the Epic Game Store, and just knew, oh my god, Mush is gonna have a mental breakdown after he reads this tweet. And yeah, I am. There's a lot to unpack here. If you read this lengthy tweet from Randy Pitchford, you probably already know the little bit of it that made my head almost explode. And really, this video, I'm not planning this video out. We're gonna read the statement, but I'm already letting you guys know that little bit that you guys could probably already tell. Again, if you read this statement, we're probably gonna spend quite a bit of time on that little bit, so we'll talk about it. Let's go over the tweet. Okay, so this is again from Randy Pitchford's official Twitter, and this is coming off the heels of Borderlands 4 officially being revealed for Steam, coming off the heels of, a lot of online traction of his tweet from 5 years ago, where he thought Epic was gonna overtake Steam, at least gain a lot of market traction. We did a video on that, go dig it up. That video did very well, so thank you guys. Okay, so here's Pitchford's new tweet. If Epic successfully pressed its advantage, that may have been the case, but Epic did not. So famously, Steam does very little to earn the massive cut that they take and continues its effective monopoly in the West, while would-be competitors with much more developer-friendly models continue to shoot themselves in the foot. I am a Steam customer and Steam developer that will continue to root and support for competition. Borderlands 3 and Wonderlands demonstrated clearly that the customers show up for games, not the storefront, but the industry gives Steam their monopoly because publishers are afraid to take the risk to support more developer and publisher-friendly stores. It's all very interesting, and there is a huge amount of opportunity in the PC gaming space for retail disruption, but no one seems to be able to make it happen. As a Steam Deck customer and user, my bias for personal interest and convenience is fighting against my wish for a more developer-friendly alternative on Windows PC. I had high hopes for Epic, hopes that were validated in the moment for Borderlands 3 and Wonderlands launches. Before I continue this statement, let me add that we do not have official numbers for Borderlands 3 or Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. These are juggernaut franchises and IP. With Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, obviously an accessory to Borderlands, but you cannot expect every game to be at the Borderlands level, and he isn't being transparent as far as what those numbers are, and I find that a little bit telling. Do be transparent with those numbers, and I would like to kind of hypothesize what they would be on Steam, because even if you have those numbers that are available to you, clearly the numbers weren't satisfactory enough if Borderlands 4 is coming out on Steam. I just find all that rather interesting. If you're saying that gamers show up for games, and Borderlands 3 and Wonderlands apparently did so well, why is Borderlands 4 not on Epic Game Store as well? Is that just a shift of methodologies from EGS? I don't know. Continuing with the statement, but my long-term hope that appeared in a dozen-long tweet storm I did over 5 years ago regarding Epic Store were misplaced or overly optimistic. It's a cool lesson for me and anyone who wants to learn from my experience. Moving forward, we'll continue to support Steam as we have for literally every PC game we've launched since Steam came into existence. Meanwhile, I sincerely hope Epic keeps up the fight and makes headway. Epic is going to have to prioritize the store and try some new initiatives while also doubling down on earning pivotal exclusives if it's going to have a chance. I also hope other viable competitors arrive. I am sure we will be watching. As a developer, I will continue to balance being where the customers are with being where I wished would earn the customers' trust and loyalty. As a game player, I will be on all platforms. First of all, again, the exclusive thing is what I'm going to have an aneurysm about. We'll get to that in a second. I am all for competition. I want a healthy market environment. The element of Steam that it's always going to be difficult to fight against it is because Steam is doing so many things right. Usually, when you have a disruptor come into the market, it's because the market leader are fumbling in a lot of regards. Steam isn't fumbling that hard. I feel like their developer split, while you can say that okay, they take too much money. I don't know the ins and outs of every agreement. We've heard the 70-30 split, and that split gets lower and lower the more copies you sell. Again, we don't have exact details, and I'm sure every publisher can work out specific deals, especially for the bigger top-tier publishers. However, the exposure that Steam gives you, especially being on the front page, I feel like that is so unquantifiable that 30% is a drop in the bucket. In fact, Epic Game Store even offering a healthy, split between the developer and the storefront they are not giving that level of exposure. You do not have the quality storefront that is going to promote the game in a necessary way, where you would rather take that L of that small percentage that you are giving to Steam, and I'm saying small in the grand scheme of things of what Steam can potentially offer you, where if you do want to be on the Epic Game Store only, they gotta pay for exclusivity agreements, and at that point, that is where we have a problem. That is where I'm going to push back on Randy Pitchford the hardest. Look, he had a bad take as far as the Epic Game Store. I think we all had some bad takes here and there. I was pretty down on the Epic Game Store for the last 5 years. Again, I said it in the previous video. Back in 2019, when we were talking a lot about EGS and them getting exclusives like Metro Exodus, before class, I was in college at this point, I would literally record videos having meltdowns about things going on with Epic Game Store, then rush to class, and I'm like heated at this point, and no, but I'm just pulling up to class and nobody knows I just went on a 15-minute storm-minute video, just like having a meltdown over video games. But I digress. I've been along for the ride from Epic Game Store's inception, and the thing that annoyed me from the get-go is the timed exclusives. Look, that is not beneficial to the consumer. That is not beneficial for anyone when you have timed exclusives for games that were going to happen anyway. Are we going to kid ourselves in pretending that a Metro Exodus wasn't going to come to fruition? Are we gonna kid ourselves and pretend like Final Fantasy VII Remake wasn't gonna come to PC if Epic Game Store was involved? I don't know if that's the case, but I would have to think that wasn't the case. Now, if it's a case where Epic Game Store literally, or Epic Games I should say, facilitated the creation of a game or something happening from the get-go, I don't have a problem with that game being exclusive. I've said that from the get-go. You publish your own game, you finance it, Alan Wake 2, so on and so forth. That game would not have existed without Epic Games' involvement with it. Fine, more power to you. Have it as an Epic Game Store exclusive, because without you, that game probably doesn't exist, or I would imagine wouldn't exist. However, I would also argue that you are going to stifle the potential of that game, and the sales numbers of Alan Wake 2 were a little bit disappointing. I think they would have been a lot better if it was on Steam, but whatever. You facilitated the creation of it. If you view that as a tool to heighten your market share as a storefront, more power to you, go for it. It's this instance of, let's just chuck money at a game and let's get it to, as an exclusive for a little bit, because that is not beneficial to the consumer. What has Epic Game Store done outside of offering some really solid deals? Don't get me wrong, I mean, those Epic Mega Sales offer a lot of great deals, and the free games that I feel like at this point people have just padded out their library to an obscene extent and they're not playing any of those free games. But I digress. You've offered me content for like a couple of years or many years, so I am appreciative of that. But as far as chucking money for exclusives, what benefit does that offer to the consumer? Nothing. It's the same reason I crap on PlayStation for doing the same thing, and I think Square Enix is finally starting to realize that making your game an exclusive not only cuts off sales numbers, and I'm sure they're very much aware of that. We don't get these numbers, and I would love to see these numbers as far as how much these games are selling on the Epic Game Store when they're exclusive. Randy Pitchford, you're saying Borderlands 3 on Wonderlands, that gamers showed up for those games on Epic Game Store. Let's get some transparency. I'm sure you have access to what that game sold on Steam so far, what that game sold on Epic Game Store from its launch on Epic Game Store. Let's get those numbers, because I guarantee you it was stifled quite heavily. I have a lot of friends, and I'm speaking anecdotally, but that's the only metric I can go across, because we don't have transparent numbers, that didn't pick up Borderlands 3 until it was available on Steam. That's just the reality of the situation. I've said over and over again, and I go back to this story because it was maybe an eye-opener that came a little bit too late, but this was back in summer of 2022. Final Fantasy VII Remake had just come out on Steam, and, a cool little release. It was super delayed. I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but cool. It's available on Steam. It was available on Epic Game Store 6 months prior to that, going back to December of 2021. I feel like I have my dates and timelines in check here. I get on Discord that day. One of my buddies is streaming Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I get on, and he's like, "Yo, bro, Mush, did you see Final Fantasy VII Remake is finally on PC?" And I was like, this game's been on PC for 6 months, but it was such an eye-opener at that point. And this person regularly plays video games, and you can say it was an isolated incident. It absolutely was, but this was just like the cherry on top of everything, where I was just like, man, This dude didn't even know that this game was available on PC. At least, there's a lot of people that know that a game was exclusive for a while. This man literally told me it's on PC for the first time, and at that point I was like, dude, Epic Game Store, and this is 2022. EGS has been around for a few years at this point, and I'm just like, dude, they are in some serious trouble if this is the perception that they still have all these years later. Look, I get wanting competition, but at the same time, EGS as a storefront has left so much to be desired. There were times where shopping carts weren't available, so on and so forth. User reviews, I can go on and on. Steam is a refined, well put together platform. Does it have its issues? Absolutely, like any storefront is gonna have, but they've also been around so long where they've been able to develop and create the most compelling platform to me, and most people are on it. That's just the reality of the situation. And look, the timed exclusivity thing is one thing I hate more than anything in gaming. Sure, you get a bag up front, and I'm not going to, I'm not going to condemn any developer or even a publisher, even a big-time publisher, for taking the bag. You run a business. If you think that is the best business move, more power to you. I just absolutely dread it from a consumer standpoint, because first of all, it offers nothing for the consumer unless they are facilitating the creation of the game, which in a lot of instances, Epic Game Store is not doing. They're just offering a ton of money and getting that game as a timed exclusive. Not only that, and this goes for PlayStation getting timed exclusives, and this goes for Square Enix selling their timed exclusives to Sony. Final Fantasy 16 would have been created regardless. Sony didn't offer anything outside of a bag of money to get that game. The reality is, we are also stifling the ceilings of these games, because that 24, 48 hours, 1 week, that initial period of when a game comes out is when the game should be the hottest. It is when the rhetoric and the talk online should be at its biggest. Much like a Black Myth Wukong. Black Myth Wukong comes out, it's accessible to everybody outside of people on Xbox, and that's an Xbox fault, and I don't want to go into that right now. Black Myth Wukong comes out, available on Steam, available on PlayStation. The discourse, the online traction is so strong. Do you think that would have been the case if Black Myth Wukong was an Epic Game Store exclusive? I am telling you right now, it absolutely would not have been. Let's go back to Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 came out on PlayStation 5. They knew damn well that that's a game that should be on PC as well. And what happened? The momentum just built and built with that game, and the online Discord was so powerful that the ceiling was raised for that game and what that game ultimately did. If that game was only available on PlayStation 5, would that have been the case? Absolutely not. I get it that Sony wants to sell exclusives and they want people in their ecosystem. So, do whatever you want with your first-party published title. The chucking money to get exclusives. And I'm sure there's a little bit of ins and outs. I'm sure, whatever. Maybe they offered Square Enix something. Maybe Final Fantasy 16 wouldn't have happened if Sony wasn't involved. If you guys want to believe that, go for it. I'm sure, the power of this with the PS5's SSD made FF16 possible. We needed the extra year to get the game ready on PC. Herp derp. But, you guys get the idea. You guys already know how I feel about that as far as timed exclusivity. It's one thing when it's a first-party published title, Epic facilitating the creation of Alan Wake 2. This chucking money garbage to get games on platforms for a window of time, creating an artificial ceiling for that game. That absolutely happens. FF16, if it came out back in June of 2023 on PC, like it did on PlayStation 5, maybe Sony or maybe Square Enix wouldn't have deemed it to be rather lukewarm from a sales standpoint. I offer that to you guys because PC gaming these days is so big, Steam is so big, you want to raise the ceiling for these games and not do timed exclusives. But, going on a tangent about that, that is going to do it for me. Hope I made my point very clear, and I wish we could have a transparent level of information to see how Borderlands 3 did, to see how Tiny Tina's Wonderlands did, to see how Metro Exodus did. I'm so curious as far as the actual commercial data for how these games did, because Pitchford can say in this long-winded tweet that the gamers will show for the game. How did these games do? And do we have data that the people that bought Borderlands 3 and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands were ultimately viewing Epic Game Store as a superior storefront, and and then buying more games on the Epic Game Store, because that is the ultimate goal. They're just not making exclusives to hope you buy the exclusive and call it a day. Sony's not doing that either. They don't put Spider-Man 2 on PlayStation 5 hoping you buy Spider-Man 2 and call it a day. They want you in that ecosystem. That is where they become the most profitable, when they create that ecosystem that you are invested into, and they can create that residual revenue stream where you're buying other games, where you in the case of PlayStation Plus subscriptions, so on and so forth. But I hope that covered everything. That's gonna do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments section down below, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out. Hey, what's going on, guys? Mush here again. Hope you enjoyed the video. As you guys might know, YouTube's notification system is sometimes a little bit wonky, even if you're subscribed to the channel. Maybe you're not abundantly aware that I uploaded a video. To remedy that situation, make sure you hit the bell notification button. This way, whenever I upload a new video, and I try to upload as consistently as possible, you will be notified directly of the upload, and you can watch it as soon as it goes live. I would really appreciate if you guys hit that button so you can stay up to date with all of the content I'm posting. But as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.